Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Welcome to the Mediator Morning Show with me, Brian West, where it is my duty every Sunday morning at 6:30 a.m. to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories, local stories first, and then we may do a segment where we interview or a skit, and then we'll get to the national stories that made it in during the week. So let's get to it. Let's get to the top stories that made it in this week, local stories. Story number 1. Valley nurse needs a kidney, according to some local reports. She will probably be, I caught this story, I believe it was on WFMJ. Very, very big story about a nurse needing a kidney. Check out this story. Keep an eye on it because it's very, very hard to find a donor. Let's get to story number 2. Story number 2. Good news for Trumbull County as they will be getting ready to replace another bridge. That's another headline that made it in. Trumbull County has been going through a lot, as you can see over the years with the decay of roads and bridges. They are finally starting to work on the infrastructure, so that's good news for Trumbull County. Story number 3. Did you know that the Mahoney County has received an award for accounting excellence? Keep an eye on that during tax season and make sure you take note of that in the Mahoney County you are dealing with some of the best accountants around, award-winning accountants. So keep that in mind. CPAs are always good. Story number 4. WRTA will now be serving the Warren area. If you haven't noticed, we've seen a lot of bus services. We've seen the ups and downs of the bus servicing business in the Mahoning Valley and in the area. But by them expanding with the state grant, you probably will be noticing a lot more activity in the busing services, and the fact that the state has provided these funds for the public. This was a public grant provided by the state that could so WRTA can expand into the city of Warren. So that's pretty good. That's big news for WRTA, who has seen their ups and downs over the years. Story number 5. After a father and daughter were killed on the 500 block of Judson, police are still investigating a motive. This story is still developing, and it's very shocking. I caught some footage of the mayor talking about how he does not want this in the city. City officials are just stunned. Public officials, even the public in general, but they're keeping an eye on this case. This is a very, very historical. This has never been seen in the valley. We've had murders over the years, but this local story, just keep an eye on. That's why I said it almost made it into the top 3 local stories this week. And Youngstown has been struggling over the years to develop a better image for the city and for new residents that try to come into the city. Keep an eye on story number 5. This was a very, very tragic story, so let's hope that it changes the attitude for the better in the Mahoning Valley and in the Youngstown area. Story number 6, developing story. Is the local and national media consumption changing your attitude? And you will notice this with a lot of radio hosts and a lot of media outlets. People are saying that it's changing the attitude of the public. Now, people love hospitality, and there are many people that are starting to take notice of stories like this. That's why it almost made it to the top 2 stories this week. They're talking about the personality of people and how they're even starting to take surveys, businesses, local businesses, wanting to know how their employees are treating their customers. Now, this story is not only has been developing with residents, but it's developing in the business environment and you'll probably see it on multiple media platforms as the media as they try to get a grip on stories centered around the treatment of others. Now, keep an eye on this developing story because it has a lot to do with hate crimes and terrorist suspect. You can see what's happening in the airwaves, how children are responding, and how they're acting. This could be because of what they're consuming in TV and entertainment. That's why this is not only a local story, but this probably could get bumped up to a national story pretty soon in the top 8. But keep an eye on a story like this. You can't help but wonder why people do the things that they do. Could they be influenced by the media? Story number 7 in the top 2 local stories that made it in this week. Is the Valley prepared for an outbreak, for any outbreak? Now, with the flu and the coronavirus fears lingering, disease fighters have been hitting the airwaves a lot. They've been talking about ways to combat diseases and to protect yourself. Even Governor DeWine, the governor of Ohio, Mike DeWine, reached out to employees through email talking about the importance of cleaning and good hygiene around around businesses. So this is developing into a bigger story. And this is on the workroom floor. Just imagine when you're out and about at local hospitals or maybe at the store. This is why this is very, very important that we try to combat the spread of such viruses and such diseases. Doctors have been doing their best to keep the public informed and how to prevent and how to fight these diseases. Keep an eye on story number 7. It almost made it to the top this week because you have to ask that question: is the Valley prepared for any outbreak? Story number 8. The top story that made it in this week, a good story, catching them young and early. This is a story that comes out of Warren Middle School. They have been taking the steps to try to teach kids at an early age about the trading skills, about computers and all types of technical skills. They're trying to hit them early, masonry. So keep an eye on a story like this. This is why it's at the top 8, because they're starting to see that education is a very, very important thing. And I think adults have been trying to enforce new rules inside of not only their own household, but they've been trying to get the word out that the next generation, it's important that they be educated. I caught multiple ends of stories. This is why the story is at the top, about how adults are starting to they're starting to hit the airwaves. I've heard multiple interviews on the radio. This is developing into a bigger story about educating and catching kids while they're young and trying to work on their habits, their education habits, trying to get them good teachers and trying to get them good role models. So keep an eye on story number 8. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back, have an interview, and then we'll get to the top 8 national stories that made it this week. You're the Mediator with me, Brian West, the morning show. Do not go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
If you want to check out the stories that almost made it in or did make it in, go to our Twitter feed on our website. Check out everything. All of the sources are there. And go to the website. It's METHOD, the number 8, INC.com, method8inc.com, where you can buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program.